This is Right on the Money with Tom Mosley, founder of Mosley Wealth Management.
Our mission at Mosley Wealth Management is to help people make sure they never run out of income the rest of their life and they pay as little as they're legally required to pay in taxes.
Since 1995, Tom Mosley and his team have been creating comprehensive, custom financial plans to help you preserve what you've earned and pursue what you've envisioned.
In retirement, a lot of people have built a great lump sum. We call that your lumber yard. But you need a blueprint to put that lumber yard into a plan that you can build a retirement house to live in.
What's on your mind this week, Southern California? The stock market, taxes, inflation, income, Social Security, how to ease into the life of your dreams? Let's discover conservative financial strategies starting right now. This is your Right on the Money Radio Hour with Tom Mosley.
And a very happy weekend to you. You are listening to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. He is the founder and president of Mosley Wealth Management based right here in Southern California, and I'm your host, Kristin Oakley. Each week, Tom and I are committed to providing you with retirement planning solutions. We're so glad that you're joining us. Tom, my friend, it's always a joy to be with you. What is going on in your world this week?
Not much, just trying to make it through the summer. We're almost there and I'm pretty excited about maybe things cooling off a little bit. You know, I love the football season and the little crisp mornings. So
Oh, yes.
those are right around the corner. Sometimes here in Southern California, even in the summer, you'll go out in July or August and in the middle of the night or late at night, and it's a little crispy, but can't wait for the fall.
Yeah, well, awesome. Well, I'm excited to have this conversation with you as I am each and every week. And this weekend, we are going to be talking about something that affects every generation, no matter where you are in your retirement journey. If you are a millennial, if you're Gen X, if you're in the baby boomer generation, even if you're in Gen Z, right, Tom? The earlier you get started, the better off it's going to be for you and your retirement. We're going to be talking today about the major reasons why people run out of money in retirement and how to avoid it. Tom, this is such an important conversation to have for people, no matter their age and stage of life. Why don't you set up for our listeners why that is?
Well, you said it right. Every generation, there are a lot of times we do things and it's focused on the people who are 55, 60, 65. But this is a show today that every single person needs to listen to, because the sooner you start preparing for something major like retirement, the better off you are. And there was a recent study, for instance, came out, and you know, you and I have shared that article, Kristin, where it says 2/3 of peak boomers. Now, those are the people who are in retirement right now. All the rest of you, listen up, are facing a retirement cliff. Okay, that's the title of the article in Investment News. And there's a guy named 𝗨𝗲𝗄𝗎 was involved in it. Robert Shapiro, who was a undersecretary of Commerce, had a contribution to the article. But the interesting thing was down in paragraph 4 of that article. It said 52.5% of all boomers have less than $250,000 saved for retirement. Now, that's shocking.
Yeah.
Because what that does is that means that Social Security, which we lovingly refer to sometimes because of the warnings they're giving us on that as social insecurity, Social Security is responsible for 40% of the average retiree's income in retirement. So if you don't have much money to draw on when the income is short and the income gets cut by 21 to 25% in the next 9 years, 10 years or so, then there's some clouds on the future. And that's why running out of money is such a scary proposition.
Yes. And we know that this is the number one fear of most retirees. There's even several studies that prove that that is a greater fear than dying. I mean, there's so many studies I see here in our notes that are listed that have come out that have stated this fact that most people are more afraid of running out of money than they are of death. And I think it's because, you know, Tom, that's really not pleasant to think about, getting to the end of your life and not having any money left. And I know that this was a huge reason why you wanted to become a retirement planner back before people even called themselves retirement planners, right?
Yeah, absolutely. My story, very briefly, is that I was in the ministry for 19 years, and many times I was in charge of benevolence at the church. And that's where when people come and they have needs, they come and they ask the church for money and for assistance. And I had in that 19 years, many years of being in charge of benevolence, people across my desk trying to decide to buy food or medicine because they didn't have enough money to buy both of them. So when I got into the financial service industry in 1995, I told my insurance and my investment manager, two different guys I was meeting with in Pasadena at a little office at the corner of Lake and Colorado that was real famous one day a year because everybody got to come there and watch the Rose Bowl parade from our
Aw,
rooftop.
that's
Okay.
awesome.
But I told those guys, I said, look, I want to work with retirees.
hmm
And they looked at me, Kristen, like I had said something of a different language,
Right.
of something they'd never heard before. And all of
Mhm.
us now, we who are of the age of retirement, we get mailers, we get things in the mail all the time inviting us to a retiree dinner, a social security workshop. We even do that ourselves.
Mhm.
But it's because everybody and their brother right now hangs themselves out as a retirement planner. And what I find out when I look at the plans that some of these retirement planners have put together, they're just like the plans you would put together for a 25 or a 35 or a 40-year-old.
Mm.
Running out of money is a probability chance that they're taking. That's even in the software that they use in the Monte Carlo model that's so
Mhm.
famous by all of these people. So I wanted to make sure that number one, people never ran out of money the rest of their life. When
Mhm.
you're 25 and 35, you need to just grow your money. And what we're going to talk about on the show today is you need to save a lot of it
Mhm.
because nobody's ever come to me with too much money. Nobody's ever
Mhm.
come to me and said, I've got too much money. Where can I give it away? I've
Right.
had some people who wanted to give it away, but
Mhm.
nobody ever said they had too much money. So you need to be involved in growing that money. And we do that. Don't get me
Yep.
wrong.
Yep.
But when you're turning that corner to go into retirement, it's no longer your lump sum that makes the difference. Like I've got $1 million, I've got 1.5, I've got two. Doesn't make any difference. When you get to retirement, it's not your lump sum, it's your income.
Yes.
And having guaranteed income for the rest of your life is what's most important.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you said that, Tom, because I know we've talked a lot about that on the TV show. It's not about your lump sum, it's about your income. So if you're listening today, I think most people, no matter how much you've saved, there's always this sense of, I wish I had done more, or I wish I had started sooner, or I wish I had known this when I was younger. I hear that all the time. But the point is, Tom, that once you get to that point in retirement, however much you have, this is why you need that solid plan in place to make sure you're going to have a reliable, ongoing, steady stream of income that's going to be able to last you throughout the rest of your life.
Exactly. And I have likened many times, Kristen, that accumulation phase to building a lumberyard.
hmm
And I've likened the retirement phase and what we do and specialize in doing for our clients. We have 5 offices all over Southern California. I have 6 advisors who are willing to sit down with you and start with a blank piece of paper and build a retirement blueprint, is what we call it. But you know what we're going to use for that blueprint? We're going to use the lumber yard you've built. So
hmm
if you're 25 and 35, you need to be building your lumber yard. If you're 45, keep building your lumber yard. When you turn 50, 55, 60, and you get close within 10 years of retirement, you need to start saying, hey, how much lumber do we have in that yard, and how big of a house and how nice of a house will it build in our retirement blueprint for us to live in securely for the rest of our life and make sure we don't run out of income.
Yes.
Kristen, the Federal Reserve System just came out with a report I thought was pretty interesting. And this will help you if you're out there in your different age levels, okay? If you're 35 to 44,
hmm
the average person in America has $141,000 saved for retirement.
Now, I'm curious, is this for singles or married couples or just per person?
This is for married couples.
Okay, for married
Okay.
couples. Okay.
So, but here's the issue, and that's a very good question, because if you're single, okay, you need that same amount almost because, gas costs the same price.
Sure.
The mortgage costs the same price.
Yep.
My wife always tells me when I'm out of town, she'd just as soon grab something on the way home or just put something together really quickly because it costs just as much time, energy, effort, and money to prepare for one that it does for two. So,
Exactly.
and the problem is if you're single, and I get it because we work with so many single men and women, but I get it because your tax rates are half of what they are if you're married.
Exactly. So you're in a higher tax bracket, essentially.
Exactly. So let's just call it households.
Okay.
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 The average household that's got 35 to 44-year-old people in it has $141,000 saved for retirement. 45 to 54 has $313,000. You see, it's a little more.
Mm-hmm.
55 to 64 has $537,000 saved for retirement. And if you're 65 to 74, it's the highest. It's $609,000 saved for retirement because they lumped everybody over 75 together and they said that average household has 462. So you see,
Wow.
they've already started tapping into it.
Right.
They're already on that downward trend. This article calls it the retirement cliff, where
Mhm.
they're close to dropping off the cliff. Here's what I encourage you to do. You say, yeah, I'm concerned about this. Well, stick with the show because we're going to talk about the problem and reasons people are running out of money. And then we're going to talk about the solutions, okay? We're going to talk about how you can solve it. But here's your point. Everything in retirement planning, I read every article that comes across the internet that I have time to read that talks about retirement planning. And the bottom line or the upfront line or the middle line, but the overpowering line is you need a plan. Okay.
Mhm.
If you don't have a plan, you don't have a strategy, then you do have a strategy. And as we've said sometimes on the TV show and the radio show, hope is your strategy. I hope
Mhm.
it's going to last. I hope it might be there. Now, we call a plan a retirement blueprint. And by listening to this show, by taking advantage of calling in, we offer a complimentary, that's free, okay? Totally free complimentary blueprint that we can sit down with you, look at your lumberyard and say, what do you have? Where does your household fit? Are you above average, below average? What are your needs? And we build a retirement plan for you. Now, that's what we offer, but you've got to call in and you've got to get on our calendar.
That number to call to get your customized, personalized retirement blueprint is 888-930-5609. Again, this is completely free of charge and it's offered to you, our radio listeners. We encourage you to pick up the phone and call 888-930-5609. We've got a lot more to cover on today's show about running out of money in retirement and how you can avoid falling into that situation right after this.
Tom Mosley and the team have helped thousands of folks like you in Southern California plan for their retirement. Now make the call yourself. 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609.
How do you know if you're retirement ready? That's a question many people ask themselves as they approach their golden years. We believe the answer can be complex and depends on many factors, such as your savings, monthly expenses, and lifestyle goals. At Mosley Wealth Management, we can help you determine if you're retirement ready. We'll work with you to assess your financial situation, identify any potential income gaps, and develop a customized plan that aligns with your goals. Don't leave your retirement to chance. Call us today to learn how we can help you work towards achieving financial security and peace of mind in retirement. Call Tom Mosley and the team at Mosley Wealth Management for your complimentary retirement blueprint. Call 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609. Welcome back to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. I'm your host, Kristin Oakley, and this weekend, Tom and I are discussing the major reasons why people run out of money in retirement and how you can avoid falling into that situation. We know, as we talked about in the first segment, that this is the number one fear of retirees. The fear of running out of money is even greater than the fear of death, and it's very real. And I think, Tom, part of the issue is we're kind of in this perfect storm. You know, we talked about peak boomers just a little bit ago. Those are the people that are currently in retirement, and A lot of the issue is that we are now living longer than we ever have before. I mean, back in the day, it used to be people worked till age 62, and maybe they were passing away as early as age 65. They didn't have this long span of time that they needed to plan for. But now, conceivably, people can live 20, 25, 30 years beyond that. If you think about that, that's an entire working career lifetime after you've retired.
Right, with no income, with
Right.
only living being what I always called you're self-employed once you retire because whatever you've saved and whatever's in your quote business bank, that's what you pay yourself for the rest of your life.
Hmm.
So it is an issue. Let's talk about life expectancy. Overall, from zero, from birth, women live about 7 to 8 years longer than men.
Hmm.
But then there's another way to calculate life expectancy, and that's to take people who reach the age of 65.
Hmm.
You're already there to 65. If you make it to 65, what's your life expectancy there? Well, recently there was a survey done by the Social Security Administration, actually, and it showed that the average 65-year-old male is going to live about 17 and a half more years average.
So up to
That means
82 and a half, right?
you got it. You
Yep.
got it. And then U.S. News and World Report came out with a survey and an article in July of this year, and they said, their results were 19.3 years.
Hmm.
So if that's true, then and it only covered men in this article. It did not cover women. I am sorry, ladies, but that was a
What a
U.S. News
travesty.
article. Yes, I know. I know. I read the survey and I kept reading it, and I couldn't believe they didn't include women.
Right, because you and I both know. I mean, we've done so much work specifically on financial education for women. When I see a glaring omission like that, it's hard to fathom.
It's like, hey, there's an injustice there. There
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah.
Women, if you are at 65 right now, you've got a life expectancy now of 20.2 years on the average, so 85.2 years. So the idea of a retirement income cliff that you could fall off of running out of money, of not having enough money saved, it's a very real situation. And
Hmm.
there's lots of reasons why.
Yeah. Well, and we're going to get into those reasons real quick, Joe, just to put this into perspective too, of just how many people are reaching 65. So this study that we mentioned earlier in the show projects that 30.4 million Americans will turn 65 by the end of this decade. So you take that amount of people and then you look at the life expectancy. I mean, this is why it is that perfect storm. And we're seeing the squeeze on Social Security and everything else because we've never had this many people entering retirement at once before.
Right. It's a bottleneck. It will go down, and then in subsequent, Gen Xers, or there are fewer of them than there are baby boomers. There are more
Mhm.
millennials, so there's another bubble that will come in 20, 25, 30 years. So all of these things you can tell by working their way through the system. People are going to retire. And for those of you who are millennials out there, you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, listen to me. Listen to me, please. The time to start preparing for retirement was yesterday, but since yesterday you didn't do it, today is the day to start preparing for retirement.
Yes.
And a lot of times we have people call up and they say, will you work with my children? And you're thinking, well, the babies, elementary school.
Right.
No, my children are 42 years of age. I just
Mhm.
recently worked with a couple that I just have really fallen in love with. They're a great couple right here locally, live in the same town I live in, and their parents go to church where I used to go to church, and we're really close, and they're in their early 40s. We built a retirement plan for them
Mhm.
because they're projecting forward to what they're going to need, and they're planning.
Yeah.
And so if you're younger, you need to call in and get a retirement plan. Yeah, you don't have much money. Yeah, a lot of financial planners are going to just shun you and not really want to work with you, but you need a retirement plan starting now so that you get a vision of where you want to go, and you need to take advantage. It's free to you, just like it is for boomers or Gen Xers or whoever. You need a retirement plan. Call us and get on our
Mhm.
schedule.
Absolutely. Again, that number to call is 888-930-5609. It's never too early to start. And Tom, as you were even saying that, I can hear other listeners, I'm sure, who are older than, millennial generation saying, yes, listen to Tom, do it, start sooner, right? I don't know
Right.
anyone who says, oh, I'm sad that I started as soon as I did. No, most people are regretting they didn't start as soon as they could have.
You and I have a common friend, 𝗪𝗏, who's a very famous person in our industry. He's
Mhm.
written 13 New York Times bestsellers, The Automatic Millionaire, Smart Women Finish Rich, different
The
things like
latte
that.
factor,
The
yes.
latte factor. And he's got in that Automatic Millionaire a chart that shows if you start at like 18 or 20 and you save for 8 years the same amount of money, say $2,000, and you stop,
Mhm.
and then somebody else starts at 28 and they save every year that same amount of money until they're 65, with the miracle of, Mark Twain calls it the eighth wonder of the world, a miracle of compound interest. The person who started early and stopped after, I think it's 8 or 10 years, has more money than the person who started later and saved for 37 years.
Yep.
So you got to understand, the sooner you start, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's now talk about some of the main reasons why folks are running out of money in retirement again. And I know we're going to provide some solutions in the show as well. First off, I mean, this might seem kind of obvious, but insufficient savings. Basically, people not starting as soon as they should, not saving enough during their working years. And Tom, I think part of this just comes from that lack of financial literacy. I mean, I remember being so frustrated as a young 20-something thrust into the workforce. And I remember thinking to myself, why don't they teach us this stuff in school? Why don't they teach us how all of this works? Why don't they, explain compound interest? And I think that there's starting to be a shift. I know my husband as a teacher is now teaching financial education at the high school level. But this is the problem. A lot of people didn't know this information. They weren't aware. They are underestimating retirement costs. They're thinking, oh, I'll have Social Security like my parents, my grandparents did. But this generation and the generations that follow can't rely on the stability of Social Security and pensions to satisfy all of their income needs like previous generations did.
Absolutely. The twilight zone. I mean,
Mhm.
they just don't save enough. There's no knowledge. And since there's no knowledge, it's like scripture says, the people perish,
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
there's no knowledge there. People don't know what to do, how to do it. It's one of the reasons we have seminars all over Southern California. Every week we have 1, 2, or 3 seminars that either I or somebody on my staff teaches on Social Security, taxes, income planning, and a whole retirement master class. You can go to our website, Mosley Wealth Management, and check those out. That would be one start to helping you get financial knowledge. Now, let me raise a flag there, Kristin.
Okay.
The number one place people are getting financial knowledge right now is TikTok.
Oh, I believe it.
And I'm sorry, but there's a lot. And here's what I want you to understand. It's when I teach the Social Security workshop and we're trying to help people determine a formula for deciding when's the best time for them to turn on Social Security. Well, and I try to stress to them, just this week I had 35 people in a class in San Marino teaching Social Security for an hour. And I try to stress in every one of those workshops, Bob at the water cooler or Sally in the break room may be telling you absolutely true information about whatever financial subject they're talking about for them.
Right.
But it may be the absolute wrong information for you.
Mhm.
Because their entire situation, what do they have saved? What's their Social Security going to be? What kind of other income do they have coming in? How long are they going to work? Do they need to provide for a spouse and the survival of a spouse after one spouse goes? So there's so many different things that you're sitting out there thinking, well, I'm just unusual. Well, you may look at it and say, I'm weird. Don't do that, okay? But I'm just saying you're unique. Your situation is unique. And that's why when it comes to savings, what do you need? I just recently had a couple that had $4.9 million, and because of what they needed on a monthly basis, they may not have enough.
Mhm.
Okay. And I've
Mhm.
got people that have $400,000 sometimes, and they have enough. But the problem is, whatever you want to do, whatever your goals are, one reason people just are not having enough money to last the rest of their life is they don't save enough. They don't
Right.
sacrifice enough and put it away.
Well, and another huge reason that's compounding the issue is inflation. And just the cost of living has gone up significantly, even just in the last few years.
I like to say when I'm in one of the classes, I go to one wall on one side of the room and I say, if that's January 1st, and then I walk across to the other side in the front of the room to the other side of the room and I say, that's December 31st. If you're on a flat fixed income in retirement, and in 2019, you had enough money to go from January 1st all the way across the room or all the way through the year to December 31st. This year, because of 24% inflation, you're going to run out of money this year with that same amount of money you had in 2019. You're going to run out of money on October the 2nd. Okay. So your money, you've got more year now than you have money. One guy says on the radio, you've got more month than you have money. Okay. And so when you're in that situation, you're in a problem. And the biggest reason people have that is they don't plan on inflation. And here's another thing, Kristen, inflation for retirees is a biggie.
Yeah.
Because it's trips and travel and medical, and those things are up higher than anything. Hey, what's your inflation rate? And what that means is, what are you spending things on, and what's the inflation rate on the things that you're invested in? We can tell you if we help you build a retirement blueprint. And to build your retirement blueprint for free, you've got to call us.
That number to call is 888-930-5609. Again, this is for no cost, no charge, no obligation. It's simply an invitation to have a conversation with the team of Mosley Wealth Management to see how they can help and serve you. We know you've got questions. We know that you don't want to run out of money in retirement. There's never been a better time for you to pick up the phone and call to start that process of getting your very own complimentary retirement blueprint.
More Right on the Money with Tom Mosley right after this. Get your own no-cost retirement plan review at 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609.
Do you know how you'll generate income from your investments along with your Social Security in retirement? In our opinion, it's never too early to start the income planning process for your future. An income plan can help you work towards creating a steady stream of income to support you throughout your retirement years. Don't leave your financial future to chance. Take control today and start income planning for your retirement. Call the team at Mosley Wealth Management so we can help you design a complimentary written income plan to help you live the retirement you've always wanted. Call 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609. Welcome back, Southern California. You're listening to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. He is the founder and president of Mosley Wealth Management, and I'm your host, Kristin Oakley. This weekend, we are having an important conversation all about the reasons why folks run out of money in retirement. And as promised, we're going to continue sharing some of those reasons. And then most importantly, the solution. What can you do to make sure that you're not up at night stressed and worried and being really crippled by the fear of running out of money in retirement, which so many folks have that fear. Tom, let's talk now about unexpected expenses in retirement, because I think one of the traps folks can fall into is thinking, oh, once I'm retired, I may not be spending as much money anymore. But you often find when you meet with folks that it's the opposite, right?
Yeah. For lack of a better, it's a G-rated show, so let's call it stuff. I always like to tell people stuff still happens in retirement. You still have medical emergencies, you still have home repairs, you still have the refrigerator making that noise and that temperature going up. You still have family members that come to you and you need to support them. I mean, they're not going to get help anywhere else, whether it be in a sandwich generation. For a lot of you who are just retiring, you've got family members that are older, moms and dads and older brothers and sisters. Recently, I've had people helping them, and you've got sons and daughters and grandchildren that are in trouble and need help financially. So just call it unexpected expenses. They still happen. And, there's some things that you can insure, which is really important, that you don't get to retirement and drop all of your insurance. You need to make sure that you're insured against the risk of some of those things, but there's some things you can insure. You just have to have that emergency fund. Let me tell you right now, right up front, any good retirement plan addresses the need for unexpected expenses, for an emergency fund, for stuff happening. It's going to continue to happen. I think it stops when life stops. And when
Mhm.
life stops, you don't worry about anything else at that point. But unexpected expenses are just going to be part of life.
Yeah. Well, and we talked about longevity earlier in the show. Of course, we're living longer than we ever have before. One of the unexpected expenses, and this is a whole thing of itself on this list of problems we're going through, is healthcare costs. Because, of course, living longer, that means that we might encounter more healthcare needs. Then there's long-term care costs to be planning for as well.
Right. And that's a big uncertainty. It's like, you have longevity, and that's a good aspect if you're healthy during that longevity.
Hmm.
But many of you are sitting here and you've got a mom or a dad who's been sick for a long time. And
Hmm.
they've had a lot of expenses as a result of that. And maybe not because you were mercenary, but you were sitting there thinking, well, maybe there's an inheritance somewhere down the road. And I'm thankful for the inheritance that my parents and my wife's mother left us. And it wasn't huge, but it was helpful.
Hmm.
And but you're sitting there thinking, mom and dad are running out of money. Mom and dad weren't prepared, or maybe they had a pension like people did from a generation ago. So that longevity wasn't as big of an issue. But, a lot of people come in and they say, well, my dad died at 69, so I figure I don't have very many years left. That's not a good judge. I've got
Hmm.
a dear family that was close to me when I was in elementary school, and I still stay up with every one of the kids, the Smith family from Rockledge, Georgia.
Hmm.
And I remember their dad, Lehman's dad, had died unexpectedly at 39. And we
Hmm.
knew them when he was 39 years of age. And that year, Lehman just prepared to die. I
Hmm.
mean, it was in the 60s. And
Hmm.
he was just mentally prepared to go
Hmm.
because his dad went. And you know what? We ended up having Lehman's funeral about 5 years ago, okay?
Hmm.
In the teens, the 20 teens. I think it was 2015 that he passed away because he survived that year. He lived a long time. So how old mom and dad are, it's not gonna determine if they died short. In fact, I recently had a couple that have been working with me for about 8 or 9 years, and they came in for one of their 6-month reviews, and I'm sitting there talking to them, and the lady kept looking at her watch, and
Hmm.
I said, "Sue, do you guys have a place to go? Because we're friends." And she said, "Yeah." And mind you, he's 76 and she's 73 sitting there in my office.
Right.
And she said, "We got to go take care of his dad and mom."
Hmm.
And I was like, "Oh, wow, are they in a home here?" "No, they're still in their home, and
Wow.
we've gotta go help them around the house." I said, "How old are they?" They were both 20 years older than the 2 that were sitting in front of me. They were
Mm.
96 and 93 and still living in their home. So one of the reasons people run out of money is they don't run out of life. They're
Right.
still here, and the bills keep coming, and the rent keeps coming, and if you don't have rent or mortgage, you've got insurance and taxes and all kind of other things. So longevity can actually work against you and cause you to run out of money.
Exactly. I mean, it's a blessing that we're living longer than we ever have before, but that means our money has to last us as long as we do. And that's the biggest challenge. I want to shift gears and talk about a couple other reasons why folks could potentially run out of money. One that's on the list here is poor investment decisions. And Tom, I think this one stands out to me because I just met a really sweet couple 2 nights ago at a live event. And they were sharing that the reason they were there is they had been taken advantage of twice in the financial services space. And I didn't get the full details, but clearly they had lost a lot of money from a poor investment decision or bad advice that they had received. That's so heartbreaking to hear.
No, I run across that at least once a month of somebody who sits down across the table from me in one of our conference rooms. And my advisors, my 6 advisors, sometimes, they come back probably once a week and say, these people have a low trust level because they were working with an advisor that took advantage of them. An
Hmm.
advisor can take advantage of you. You can decide on your own to be in too risky of investments. And so therefore you had that big pot of money, but then woo, it just shriveled away. It was like Pac-Man. It went, oh,
Hmm.
it
I
disappeared
like the
on you.
sound
Okay.
effects, by the way. Good job with that.
Okay. But we all know that sound, and that wasn't a good sound when we were playing Pac-Man way
Nope.
back when. So too risky of investments, but I want to bring something else up. Let's marry this with what we just talked about. One reason people run out of money is longevity. And then they make a poor investment decision that they put it in. I just want to be safe, Tom. I don't care what I make. I just don't want to lose my money. But when you marry this to the second thing we talked about, inflation, and you marry that with longevity, if you put your money, a poor investment decision you could make is putting your money somewhere where it can't make very much money,
Right.
where it's either in the bank at low interest rates, or it's in something that's just not going to have a good enough return for you to survive inflation and longevity. And that is a poor investment decision by being too safe. Now, I go back to Rockledge, Georgia, where I grew up, and the Smith family, to get to their house, you had to go down this dirt road. Well, on this dirt road, I mean, you had ruts, and you had to stay in the ruts. And when I was learning to drive, sometimes I wasn't really good. And you got to realize, Kristin, I learned to drive on the farm when I was like 9 and 10 years old because I was driving the truck over to another pasture or something. But if you got out of the ruts, you got in the ditch to the right or you got in the ditch to the left. Well, when it comes to investments decisions in retirement, you can get on the rut, you can get in the ditch of too risky, and you can get in the ditch of not risky enough to make any money. So
Right.
it can pitch you both ways. And we're aware of losing our money, but we're not aware of, well, my dad used to have that philosophy. I want to put it in the bank because at least I'm not losing any money.
Right. It's safe,
No,
right? It's
it's
safe.
safe.
Yeah,
It's
that's
safe.
what people think. Yep.
But there's one person who has the key to that safety deposit box, and his name is inflation. And he will open that safety deposit box, that money in the bank, that money where you're not making any money at all or too much money. At least it's safe, okay? That box can be opened by inflation and destroyed. So
Yep.
you've got to be aware of. See, these things work together,
Yes.
not for the good, like Romans 8:28, but these things work all together for the bad to work against you, whether it's inflation, unexpected expenses, longevity, poor investments decisions, all of those things work against you.
Yeah, for sure. And this is another reason is market volatility. If people are continuing to invest the way that they've grown their money, often that means that they're taking on way too much risk and they enter retirement. And if those shifts and changes aren't made, those adjustments aren't made to their money, that can also be a reason why folks run out.
Absolutely. When I've talked about when you're 25 years old and the market goes down, it is a fabulous time to buy.
Because it's on sale.
It's on sale.
Yeah.
But when you're 70 and the market goes down and all you're doing for your hope plan is you hope you have enough in your lumberyard and you're just pulling a little out every month, maybe the 4% that the normal broker tells you to do, and you don't really have a retirement blueprint, a real plan, and you're just pulling money out, the market goes down, you're pulling more shares out or more value out, you're more of your equity out. And because if it's down 50%, you're having to pull out twice as many shares to get the same amount of dollars. We've talked about healthcare cost. One other big one is one reason people run out of money is they get to retirement and they've got debt. Maybe a house is okay if you've got low interest rates, but please, please understand the most contented people I have are people who enter retirement and they're debt free. They don't have any debt. They have the house paid off. Kristin, almost every person I work with wants to live in a house the rest of their life as opposed to living under a bridge.
Yep.
So going into retirement, I liken it every month. You're still going to have expenses. That's the low hurdles. But the high hurdles are when you have a mortgage, you have a lot of debt, you're jumping a high hurdle every month. What's your situation? Well, we're talking about running out of money. And some of you may say, well, boy, a lot of those problems I might have. We can help you solve those problems with a retirement blueprint, but you've got to call in. But you've got to stay for the last quarter of this show, this last segment, because we're going to go into the solutions to these problems that we've raised.
Absolutely. It's so important to understand the problem and understand how you can prevent it. And so we are going to dive into those solutions when we come back, but this is a great opportunity for you to pick up the phone and call 888-930-5609 to schedule your time to come in and meet with one of the all-star advisors of Mosley Wealth Management to receive your very own customized, personalized retirement blueprint. We'll be back with more here on Right on the Money with Tom Mosley right after this.
Get your retirement right on the money with Tom Mosley. Call 888-930-5609 for your no-cost appointment. 888-930-5609.
Will you outlive your money? It's a scary thought, but it's a real concern for many people. In our opinion, that's why it's crucial to have a solid retirement plan in place. We believe that with proper planning, you can work towards making your money last as long as you do. Don't wait until it's too late to start thinking about your financial future. Call Tom Mosley and the team at Mosley Wealth Management today to learn how we can help you create a retirement plan that can potentially help you obtain peace of mind and security for years to come. Don't let the fear of running out of money in retirement keep you up at night. Take control of your financial future today by calling 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609. Welcome back to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. I'm your host, Kristin Oakley. We've been talking today all about the number one fear of most retirees, which is running out of money. We don't want that to be you. We've talked about a lot of the problems, a lot of the reasons why folks run out of money or are afraid of running out of money in retirement. It's time now to talk about the solutions. And so, Tom, we've got a great list here and we're going to do our best to get through all of them, right?
Absolutely. I promise you we'll end the show right on time.
Yes, for sure. Well, first up, we started off today's show by sharing with you all, this is for anyone. It doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are, what stage of life you're in. Everything we've talked about today applies to you. And I think this first solution, I mean, we've talked about it already, but it's start saving early and save consistently. And the sooner you start, the better off and the easier it's going to be for you.
Absolutely. The very first problem we brought up was insufficient savings, and we gave a list of what people have saved in the different age groups from the Federal Reserve System report. So the solution to that is start early, and it's important that you start as early as you can. You say, well, I wish. Well, quit wishing. Okay, let's just stop wishing. You're listening to this show on Saturday or Sunday, you're potentially 1 or 2 days from starting, because you've got to go into your company. If you've got a 401k and you're not participating in it, if you've got a 401k not participating in it, then you need to start participating in your 401k, and you need to go into your company's HR department on Monday morning and say, I want to get into the 401k. Can I do it now? Do I have to wait for an open enrollment? What's the match? Find out the details. We can help you with that. If you want to call us, we can give you some guidelines and pointers as to what you need to do to get your 401k started at work. One of our advisors would be glad to talk to you about that. You say, I don't have a 401k. Well, get started with an IRA. If you have earned income, you can save up to $7,500 a year by just having an IRA, or even better, a Roth IRA. When's the best time to start? Probably can't start it on the weekend. You could start an IRA by going to one of the brokerage houses online, but we'd be glad to give you information on that. We don't normally really start people with IRAs as much as we give you direction and help, professional advice for free in starting your IRAs. But it's not what you start, it's now starting. And I want to hasten to say one more thing. If you're a Gen Xer out there, or a Gen Z out there, or a millennial, and you're just getting started and you don't have a house and you want to have a house somewhere in the future, it's better to a 401k and an IRA, or one of those two, but you also need to start an after-tax account so you can build a down payment over time for that. Don't always count on mom and dad. So the biggest thing is, the way to overcome insufficient savings, particularly for retirement, is start now, start early, and stay consistent.
Absolutely. Well, and Tom, I also want to just share real quick. I know we don't have time to go into the weeds of this, but I was remembering a story you shared several months ago on the radio show about a woman who had been through a nasty divorce. I believe she was in her early 60s and was basically starting over from scratch. And I can imagine that a lot of people listening are thinking, yeah, I'm in that situation too. Or, maybe they haven't saved enough up to this point, but you were able to provide solutions when you built that retirement blueprint for this single woman. And she is now thriving and has more than enough that's going to last her throughout the rest of her life. And so if you're starting over, just know that there are solutions and there are things that can be done. And even some small tweaks and adjustments can make a big difference.
We sat down with that lady that you're talking about, sweet lady. We counseled her. We told her she needed to get some more training so that she could get a more powerful job so that she could make more money. She got one. She's promoted to a company of about 20 people, and she's like the number 2 person in the company now. She has over $1 million saved. She's bought a house.
Hmm.
I mean, this lady is just unbelievable. And she didn't start till she was like 50. She had
Yeah.
$35,000 or right about that amount 10 years ago. And now she is thriving. And
Yeah.
it's all because she sat down with us. According to her testimony,
Yeah.
it's all because she sat down with us and we gave her some direction. Listen to this. We gave her some direction even when she had no money
Right. Yeah.
because we're willing to help people. We're really in this to help people.
Well, and that just shows the power of having a comprehensive financial plan. So let's talk about that solution. Of course, we are all about having a solid, comprehensive, holistic financial plan on the show. Maybe go into a little more details of what the key elements are when we're talking about having this kind of plan.
We call it a retirement blueprint. And let me just walk through the situation with this lady. With this lady who had nothing, we gave her an income plan because that's a major element when you're building a retirement plan or you're building toward a retirement plan. Or with this lady, she's just building for the last 10, 15, 20 years of her work life. Okay. She had to have an income plan. With her situation, she needed more income. Okay, so we counseled her to get some training so that she'd be more attractive in the job market. So that increased her income more than double. Okay,
Mhm.
and it gave her a position so that she could begin to save. But when you're in retirement, your retirement blueprint has to address where's my income coming from so that I don't run out of money. It
Mhm.
also, and the second thing it addresses, you need an investment plan. And this is where this show diverges because if you're a millennial or a Gen Zer out there, your investment plan should be just put it in the market into something solid and ride its ups and downs of the roller coaster. But if you're in retirement, your investment plan needs to be a little bit different. You likely need to be a little bit more conservative. And then you need a tax plan. Now, this is something you need whether you're in your 20s, 30s, or your 70s. You need to know how much your uncle in Washington, Uncle Sam, is going to tap you for taxes in the retirement plans that you have. You say, how do we put all of that together? Most of the time, we don't.
Mhm.
Most of the time, we help you do that. Okay. Most of the time, you can't do that or don't do it on your own. If you're honest with yourself, and sometimes people aren't, but a lot of you are out there and you have 750,000. You looked at those numbers that I gave in the first segment of what people have in retirement at the different, what households have at the different age groups. And
Mhm.
you're sitting there thinking, I'm doing pretty well. I'm a little bit above that. But your genius has been that you had a 401k available to you and you committed to saving money, and it grew through the years, through the ups and downs of the market. And now you're quite wealthy, probably wealthier than you ever thought you were, but it's always been without the help of a professional and without the help. It's just been a 401k plan. It's been a retirement account. And
Mhm.
now what you need is this comprehensive retirement plan that addresses what am I going to do for the rest of my life so I don't run out of income because I have that income plan in place. My investments are invested the right way so that they don't go to zero. And my tax plan is the right plan so I pay as little as I'm legally required to pay in taxes. Well, what I just said in the last 2 or 3 minutes is a capsule of what we do when you have the courage to pick up the phone and call us and get on our schedule and say, hey, I don't want to run out of money in retirement. I need a retirement blueprint. Bingo. That's our specialty. That's our sweet spot. That's that fastball that's up a little high, right over the middle part of the plate that Shohei Ohtani or Mike Trout or Manny down in San Diego just knock it out of the ballpark. You understand what I'm saying? That's what we do for people. You're smart enough to say, hey, I know about savings. I just know you got to commit to it. and I'm okay with that, and I've done that, or I'm doing that, but now I need the plan and I need the professional help. That's where we come in.
Absolutely. And I know, you've said this before, Tom, but it's important represencing for folks who might be newer to you and new to the show. This is not something where you call in and you can be sent a retirement blueprint, because every retirement blueprint, the way you start building them for someone is with a blank sheet of paper. It's about you and your situation. So I know you've had folks call in before and say, hey, can you send me one of those? And that's not how it works.
Yep, they're not on our shelf. We're not out golfing and our secretary is going to email it to you. We're actually going to sit down with you, okay? Nothing wrong with golfing, okay?
Right.
But we're going to sit down with you and we're going to find out where you are. Our first appointment, we call an envision appointment. We get a vision for where you are. You get a vision for what we do. And just the bottom line is, when you're looking for a financial advisor, you're looking for somebody you can trust.
Mm-hmm.
And the other things that are in that plan, and let me just go through them. You've got to address your investments. Are they diversified?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, are they to my risk level? That's one thing. Are they in different things so that all my eggs aren't in one basket? Some of the big funds, and some of them start with a V, and some of them are even named after our country, and they're big name funds, and a lot of money goes into those. But when we do a diversification run on that portfolio, they're all invested in the same thing.
Yep.
So you might have 20 different funds, but it's all invested in the same kind of investments. You need to be more diversified than that. You need to address inflation. Like we talked about earlier in the problems, a real retirement plan is going to address your emergency fund. It's going to address your healthcare costs. It's going to address your debt. And what's our debt reduction plan? How do we get out of debt? And if you're smart enough to start working with a professional like us, say 7, 8, 10 years before you retire, we even help structure a debt reduction and a debt elimination plan. So all of those things, when you seek our advice, that's what we do. We give you a written plan that has 3 major elements. That's income, investments, and taxes. But it has 3 minor elements that support that. It's like the mortar that holds those big bricks together. And that is your inflation aspect, your healthcare aspect, and your legacy, how you leave it. And if you want more education, you can go to Mosley Wealth Management on YouTube. We've got over 100 YouTube videos out there that teach you. That one of them is strictly on this plan, where we just talk about building the plan. But you know what you got to do? You've got to raise your hand. I mean, I can be on this radio all over the Southern California, sometimes all over the country, and some of the things that it gets pumped out, and I can get caught, but I have to get a call. I have to get you to respond and say, hey, I've done okay so far, but now I need help. I don't want to run out of money.
And today's the day. Another reason why folks can run out of money is procrastination. That's the number one cause of financial failure, and we don't want that to be you. So we encourage you to pick up the phone and call 888-930-5609 to be able to schedule your time to come in and receive your very own complimentary retirement blueprint from Tom and the team of Mosley Wealth Management. That's all the time we have for this weekend, but thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you and we love you, and thank you for listening. Until next time, be safe, be happy, be blessed, and we look forward to being back with you next week here on Right on the Money with Tom Mosley.
This is Right on the Money with Tom Mosley of Mosley Wealth Management. Get your own no-cost complimentary retirement plan review. 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609. Investment advisory services offered by duly registered individuals through Mosley Wealth Management Incorporated. Mosley Wealth Management and Mosley Insurance and Financial Services are affiliated companies by common ownership license number OB61811. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refers to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength, claims paying ability of the issuing carrier. This content is intended for for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the needs of an individual situation. All hypothetical examples are provided for illustrative purposes only. They do not represent real-life scenarios. Mosley Insurance and Financial Services, nor its agents or representatives, may give tax or legal advice. Individuals should consult with a qualified professional for guidance before making any investment decisions. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. Some of the information provided may be from one or more third parties, which we believe to be reliable sources, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Mosley Insurance and Financial Services.